What if the greatest battle of your life happened in complete silence? No audience. No applause. No one to help you. Only you, your fear, and God. What if the struggle you are facing right now is not destroying you, but transforming you? Tonight, we enter one of the most mysterious and powerful stories in the Bible. The story of Jacob, the man who wrestled with God. The sun had disappeared beyond the horizon. Darkness slowly covered the wilderness beside the River Jabbok. A cold wind moved through the trees as Jacob stood alone beneath the night sky. But this was not an ordinary night. Jacob's heart was filled with fear. For many years, he had carried guilt from his past. He had deceived his own brother, Esau. He had stolen the blessing that belonged to him. And after that betrayal, Jacob spent years running. Running from consequences. Running from fear. Running from the pain he caused. But now the past was catching up to him. His brother Esau was coming with hundreds of men. Jacob believed this meeting could end in violence, or even death. Fear consumed his mind. Have you ever felt that kind of fear? The kind that keeps you awake at night. The kind that makes your chest feel heavy. The kind that whispers, "What if everything falls apart?" Jacob knew that feeling. Earlier that evening, he sent gifts ahead to Esau, hoping to calm his anger. He sent his servants. He sent his animals. He even sent his family ahead of him. And finally, Jacob stayed behind alone. No distractions. No escape. Only silence. Sometimes God allows isolation because transformation begins when we stop running. As Jacob stood beside the river, staring into the darkness, his thoughts probably raced through his mind. What if Esau still hated him? What if tomorrow was his final day alive? What if his mistakes could never be forgiven? The night became colder. The stars shined above him. Then suddenly, everything changed. Out of the darkness, a mysterious man appeared. Without warning, the stranger grabbed Jacob. And instantly, the two began to wrestle. The struggle was fierce. Dust rose into the air beneath their feet. Their breathing became heavy. The sounds of effort echoed through the wilderness. Jacob fought with all the strength he had. At first, he may have thought this was an attack. Maybe an enemy. Maybe a robber. But as the battle continued, Jacob realized something unusual. This stranger possessed supernatural power. Still, Jacob refused to stop fighting. Minute after minute passed. Then hours. The moon crossed the night sky as the battle continued without rest. Jacob's muscles burned. Sweat covered his body. His strength slowly faded. But something deep inside him refused to let go. Because this battle was no longer physical. This was spiritual. It was the battle of a man confronting his past. A battle between guilt and forgiveness. Between fear and faith. Between weakness and transformation. And many of us know what that battle feels like. Sometimes the greatest battles are invisible. Battles inside our hearts. Battles inside our minds. Battles against anxiety, depression, fear, shame, loneliness. There are nights when we wrestle with questions no one else understands. Nights when we pray through tears. Nights when we wonder if God is listening. Jacob's story reminds us that even in those moments, God is near. As the night continued, the mysterious stranger suddenly touched Jacob's hip. Immediately, pain shot through his body. His hip was injured. Jacob nearly collapsed. The pain was overwhelming. He could barely stand. Yet even then, Jacob continued holding on. That moment is one of the most powerful parts of the story. Because most people let go when life becomes painful. Most people stop believing when prayers are delayed. Most people quit during the struggle. But Jacob held on tighter. Sometimes true faith is not about having all the answers. Sometimes faith is simply refusing to let go of God during the hardest nights of your life. As dawn slowly approached, the mysterious figure spoke. "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But Jacob answered with determination stronger than fear. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Those words came from a broken man. An exhausted man. A wounded man. Yet his spirit had become desperate for God. And maybe that is where real transformation begins. Not when we pretend to be strong, but when we finally realize we need God completely. The stranger then asked Jacob a simple question. "What is your name?" Jacob answered softly, "My name is Jacob." That name meant deceiver, trickster. For years, Jacob carried the identity of his mistakes. Maybe you understand that feeling too. Sometimes people label us by our failures. Sometimes we label ourselves. We think our past defines our future. But God sees beyond brokenness. God sees potential where others see failure. Then the stranger spoke words that would change history forever. "Your name will no longer be Jacob. You shall be called Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men, and you have overcome." Everything changed in that moment. Jacob received a new identity. The fearful man who entered the night would not be the same man who walked away at sunrise. And maybe someone listening right now needs to hear this. God can change your story too. Your mistakes do not have the final word. Your pain does not have the final word. Your fear does not have the final word. God does. As the first rays of sunlight appeared across the horizon, Jacob suddenly realized the truth. He had encountered God. Imagine the emotion of that moment. The fear. The awe. The overwhelming realization that God had met him in the middle of his struggle. Jacob walked away limping. He was physically wounded, but spiritually transformed. And sometimes God works the same way in our lives. Sometimes healing begins after the struggle. Sometimes blessing comes through brokenness. Sometimes God allows difficult seasons because those seasons shape us into stronger people. Jacob's limp became a permanent reminder of that night. Every step reminded him of his encounter with God. And maybe your scars tell a story too. Not a story of defeat, but survival. Not proof that God abandoned you, but proof that He carried you through the storm. There are people listening today who feel exhausted from fighting invisible battles. You may feel overwhelmed by fear. You may feel stuck in regret. You may feel tired of struggling. But Jacob's story reminds us that God still works during dark nights.